What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app, and we are streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. It is Super Bowl Monday, as in the day after the Super Bowl. The Eagles are Super Bowl champions, and even though I think, Anthony, we were both in favor of them winning this game. Well, you didn't. No, you picked the Eagles, but wanted the Chiefs to win. I was the other way around. I wanted the Eagles to win, but picked the Chiefs. And really, honestly, Anthony, it doesn't feel that good. I don't think that there's anything about the Eagles winning that feels good for us here in D.C. Also, I think there could be potential Commanders impacts here. The Eagles now host the NFL opener in 2025 because they win. Don't be surprised if it's Jalen Hurts versus Jaden Daniels week 1, and we're doing a show on a Thursday from Philadelphia.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Because had the Chiefs won, I think it would probably have been Mahomes versus Jaden.
That could have been possible, too. I guess we are on the Chiefs' schedule for a road game next year. So Washington will see both of these teams. You'll see a very hungry Chiefs team for sure next year. But we'll get into more of what the future holds for both of these teams over the next couple of days. And obviously the entire offseason, we have to talk about it. But let us get started, Anthony. This is an annual tradition. And, we're one game away from having to do this anyway because we do a 1st and 10 after each Commanders game, but we're gonna do this Super Bowl style. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is how we break down football games on Mondays.
It's time to get the breakdown started. 1, 2, 3. First up, 10 observations.
And just boom, put it right on the ground.
It's 1st and 10.
All right, let's get started with number 1, Ant.
Number 1.
The Eagles' defense is very simply one of the best defenses that we have seen in years. And this is a generational defense. Think 2013 Seahawks, think 2000 Ravens, think any other defense you want to throw in there. This defense is right up there with them. They just have enough talent on offense that we don't necessarily think of them first. But this performance by Philadelphia's defense was their capstone project, their master's thesis, their PhD dissertation. This was a defensive performance that was all-encompassing in every way you can be great defensively. They simply smothered the Chiefs in a way that we didn't even think was possible to do to that quarterback. You're not supposed to be able to do that to Patrick Mahomes. He's too good. He's too smart. The ball comes out too quickly. He knows the answers to the test always. It did not matter yesterday. They tightened the screws to 10, knowing that the only way to beat a defense that is that suffocating underneath is to get over the top, and then you couldn't get over the top on them because there wasn't going to be time. That takes time, even for Xavier Worthy, the fastest player in the league based off of 40 time. It takes time for him to get downfield. To get 40 yards downfield, it took him 4.22 seconds. You don't have 4.22 seconds. You didn't have 2.22 seconds yesterday. And the way they did it was a beautiful blend, as much as it pains us to say here in D.C., a truly beautiful blend of personnel and scheme. Let's talk about the personnel first for number 2.
Number 2.
They took what was an old, slow, and unproductive defense, and in one offseason, through a combination of good drafting and good luck and good planning, turned it into one of the fastest, most explosive units in the NFL. The luck part is simple. They can talk all they want about, we had Zach Bond and we had the foresight to move him to inside linebacker. Great. You deserve immense amounts of credit. Vic Fangio, Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, the linebackers, whoever it was that was like, hey, Bond, let's not have you be a mediocre edge player and special teams guy. What happens? You seem to be pretty good at moving backwards. Let's try you out in coverage. Oh, wow, you're pretty good at this. And then he turns into an all-pro. They can say, we had a vision for it. You don't change positions in the NFL and go from, I don't want to say scrub, but like backup player guy who signed for like $1.5 million to all pro at a new position in 1 year. That is one of the most remarkable. I mean, now that we're done and he helped him win a Super Bowl and he had a pick in the Super Bowl and he made the All-Pro team, he was Defensive Player of the Year finalist. That's one of the greatest single-year stories in NFL history. Like, we can't, how else could it have gotten better? Like, I guess if he wins MVP as a defensive player, certainly if he wins Defensive Player of the Year, but he was a finalist for that award. Truly one of the greatest single-season stories in NFL history, and there is undoubtedly some element of luck that is in that, and I know that because they signed Devin White, who you didn't even know was on the Eagles. I don't even know if he's still on the Eagles. Devin White signed for double this offseason what Zach Bond did, and Bond turned in to that dude. They also obviously drafted Cooper DeJean. I know that one hurts Washington fans, but you wind up with Mike Sanders still, and we'll see what Ben Sinnott is and everything else that happened with that trade. Trades can be good for both teams. Just because the Eagles won this year doesn't mean, the Eagles won the trade forever. Let's see how the next 5-10 years plays out. But certainly Cooper DeJean's a fantastic player, had an enormous impact with the pick 6 last night on what is absurdly his 22nd birthday. He is so young. Most of the guys that get drafted this year will be older than Cooper DeJean is right now, and he has a pick 6 in the Super Bowl on his resume. Kenyon Mitchell, the other guy they drafted in the first round, a tremendous pickup and so well coached. He's so smart. He's so fast. He shut down multiple shot plays too worthy last night. His ability to run across the field with some of these crossing routes, the length, the play strength, he is just a really sensational corner. And then some of the other pieces like Jalen Carter, who took a leap this year from a very promising rookie to genuinely one of the best game wreckers in the NFL. And then you have guys like Josh Sweat and Milton Williams who had tremendous games. We'll talk about them a little bit more in a bit. But the transformational pieces for me are Bond, DeJean, Mitchell, and Carter going to a completely new level. And that leads us to how Vic Fangio ultimately deployed them, which is number 3 in our first and 10.
Number 3.
The Philadelphia Eagles had 0 blitzes yesterday. 0 blitzes. That is, they sent 5 or more in pressure 0 times. They did run a few simulated pressures, but they always had 4 or 3 blitzing, or 4 or 3 rushing, I should say, and 7 or 8 in coverage. And if you want to know how you are as sticky and how there is as little air in the defense as Philadelphia constantly had, that is the biggest reason why. They simply had the bodies to do it. When you have to bring extra pressure and you're 3 deep, 4 underneath, or your quarters match coverage with 4 potential deep defenders and 3 underneath becomes 3 and 3, the field gets a lot bigger very, very quickly. You also inherently, as that shift is happening, the blitz has to come from somewhere. That is something that tends to draw quarterback eyes, and the great ones like Mahomes, and Jaden Daniels is also great at this for whatever it's worth a lot. Their eyes go to where that vacancy is, where that void is. There was no void because they did not blitz. And the ability to then say, okay, well, what's the problem? Why wouldn't you do that all the time? Well, then because you don't get any pressure on the quarterback, except for they did. They tied the Super Bowl record for sacks in this game with 6. They just, with a combination of guys like Bond, Mitchell, and DeJean, who I mentioned, the way that those guys cover ground, the speed that they have, and the intelligence that they had, how well taught they are, where they understand this quarters match Vic Fangio scheme, where this is the part of the field that is dangerous on this play. Oh, I understand this route concept, or I understand if this guy goes here, I need to follow him because I'm just going to be babysitting empty grass. And that's what happens on the DeJean pick. Kenyon Mitchell is running with the play behind it, and there's just extra bodies in the area. And so it goes from being a flood play by Kansas City where they're trying to flood the zone and make sure that they have someone open because Philly doesn't have the amount of guys you would need to cover the receivers in that section of the field, to just an endless flood of bodies, and DeJean gets lost in Mahomes' vision. He peels off, and it's also a 3rd and long, I believe, and so he realizes, I don't need to cover the flat. What am I going to do? Babysit this 5-yard area in case there's a check down to the running back that would then have to run 12 yards to get a first down? No. I'm gonna back off and make these windows tighter. And the consistent ability to understand what offenses wanted to do, have the bodies there, and make sure that you're then not weak for deeper shots because, one, you're playing a quarters 4 deep type of base structure, and 2, because your pass rush is so good that you don't need blitzers to get home, is how you get a generational defense. And that is exactly what this was. Again, they put on arguably their best performance of the year. It's one of the best performances ever by a defense in a Super Bowl, and it is the primary reason why the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. When we get back, we get to some of the other reasons. One quarterback who played well, one quarterback who did not, and some Eagles that will be, thankfully if you're a Washington fan, headed out of town after marvelous performances in their final game in green. That's all next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. We're live from Capital One Arena. Today, where the Wizards will take on Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs tonight. You'll hear it here on the Team 980. Dave Johnson live with us at 6 o'clock. And actually, Meg McDonald is going to stop by here in a second, speaking of the Monumental Sports family. You might know her, Moneyline Meg, from her show on Monumental Sports that she does daily. And she's going to stop by after she gets done with that today. And we're going to talk Super Bowl. So excited to have Meg on the show. It's funny because whenever we do the show live from Cap One, Meg always walks by and waves as she's walking out after her show. And eventually I was just like, you want to just come sit down and talk stuff? And she was like, heck yeah. So Meg's going to join us at 4:30. Right now, though, we continue with our 1st and 10 Super Bowl edition. We talked about the Eagles' defense to get things started, and we pick up with their offense.
Number 4.
Everything the smart people, not everything everyone says, everything the smart people say about Jalen Hurts is true. But that doesn't make him any less of a player, and that's something we should collectively unpack to be smarter about football. That's something that anybody who criticizes him or points out flaws in his game, if they are indeed a smart person, is reckoning with today to understand the value of certain skill sets within the context of the NFL. Hurts is not an elite processor. He's not a twitchy thrower in the way that Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes are, where the ball just flies out of his hand quickly, like catch, throw, get it out. That's not who Jalen Hurts is. But he's now a Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl champion. So what do we make of that? Because what he is someone who is supremely accurate. That is the thing that since Jalen Hurts was at Alabama, nevertheless Oklahoma, or even in his rookie year in the NFL, or his ascent in 2022, like all of it. He has always been an extremely accurate thrower and especially an extremely accurate downhill thrower. And the value of the deep ball in the NFL is still something that I think is really underappreciated by a lot of people. A lot of people love this dink and dunk, throw it over the middle, your tight end, 7-yard gain. Oh, let me hit this dig route for 12 yards. Okay, cool. You dink and dunk your way out down the field. I'll take Jalen Hurts throwing go balls. We'll go 40 yards at a time, 50 yards at a time. And so he is very smart when it comes about when to throw, where to throw, deep balls down. And then he's also an elite competitor. And that comes out in multiple ways. It comes out in his knack for making the big play, rising to the biggest moments. Also, he is incredibly even-keeled, which is an enormous trait for a quarterback to have, especially on that team where there are all kinds of different personalities that he is managing at all times. And he is just a steady person in the middle of that storm, and he is the one that guided them to this championship.
Number 5.
The one thing the Chiefs did well yesterday was stop Saquon Barkley, much to my chagrin because I had Saquon as an anytime touchdown scorer in this game. Whoopsie daisies on that one. But they sold out to sell Saquon. The problem is that then left them exposed on the back end. And at the end of the day, like in the, hey, we got to make Jalen Hurts beat us. Well, he did. And like, congrats to the Chiefs on having arguably one of the best days of Saquon against Saquon all year. Congratulations to Saquon for winning the Super Bowl.
Number 6.
Milton Williams and Josh Sweat both probably played their final game in green yesterday. Something that if you're a Washington fan, you're like, thank God. Sweat has been sensational for years for Philly. Williams is going to get paid a ton of money, and very simply, Philly cannot afford. I mean, they are as good as anybody at making the cap stuff work, but they can't pay him and then pay Jalen Carter in a couple years with all the guys they're already paying. Like Bond was on, I'm pretty sure, a 1-year deal. He's going to need to get paid. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen for Philly this offseason, and Milton Williams and Josh Sweat are probably two guys that are going to be on the outs because they're going to want to go get paid somewhere. Sweat is certainly on my list for Washington. Williams, frankly, depending on what happens with Allen and Payne, could be on my list for Washington as well. Just a tremendous output from both those guys. The strip sacks for Williams. Sweat was everywhere. Like, those two guys cemented themselves as guys that will never have to buy a beer or a cheesesteak in Philadelphia ever again with how they played yesterday, even though they then are probably going to play somewhere else next season.
Number 7.
That is the worst game I've seen Patrick Mahomes play in a long time, if not ever. Like, truly, possibly his worst game. I know people like to point to that Tampa Bay game in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Patrick Mahomes in that Tampa game was outrageously good. The circumstances around him were so outrageously bad that it wasn't really that competitive. But like Mahomes in that game, I mean, think about that play that he made where he rolled out and like was diving, getting tackled, and threw a submarine ball where his knuckles dragged the ground, and he hit Tyreek Hill in the face mask between two guys down the field. That wasn't yesterday. This was a Patrick Mahomes whose feet were all over the place, whose eyes were all over the place, who truly had no control over that game because of how well Philly was doing and crumbling circumstances around him. So while Mahomes was playing bad, he actually wasn't near the top of the list of the problems for Kansas City.
Number 8.
Top of that list was probably their offensive line. And the decision to move Joe Thuney outside worked until it really didn't. It took a strength for Kansas City, the interior of their O-line, and made it average, and it didn't really make anything else a strength. Thuney was outmatched at left tackle yesterday, and they should have probably, in hindsight, made a switch there. If they do it at halftime, I mean, at that point, it's probably already too late. But it happens. It's too late because Thuney gets bowled back into Mahomes, who throws the pick to Bond that ends that drive and ultimately turns a chance for Kansas City to double up and make it a one-score game coming out of halftime if they can double up, end of first half, start a second, to a 24-0 deficit at halftime. Just a really, really poor performance by Kansas City's offensive line, enhanced by the fact that the Eagles have arguably the best defensive line in the sport.
Number 9.
One thing you can do to mitigate that is use the RPO game. They did that on the first drive for one play, and I don't know that they ran an RPO for the rest of the day. I think Washington showed the formula of how you can beat Philadelphia. I actually think that we'll talk about the Commanders obviously more as we go today and what they did against Philly and trying to add the context of like, oh, wow, that was the Super Bowl champions. But the RPO game that Cliff and Jaden deployed was a way to move the football against this Eagles defense because you have these incredible players in DeJean and Bond on the insides, and you need to find a way to put them in conflict. And Kansas City just didn't, which is weird because they've used RPOs a ton in the playoffs when their numbers have been way better from an efficiency standpoint. Bizarre choice by Andy Reid, who is obviously one of the greatest coaches in the history of the league, but I don't know that there was a game plan for Kansas City that was going to work yesterday against Philly, but that sure as hell wasn't it.
Number 10.
Last thing, biggest takeaway. Draft well or bust. And that does not mean that you can't go make big trades. And so before anyone's like, well, you said the Commanders should go get Myles Garrett. Yeah, they should. Just like the Eagles went and got A.J. Brown. And you can go make big splash moves in free agency. But whether you give up a couple of draft picks to go do that, or you keep all yours and just purely build through the draft, if you do not hit on your picks, you are not going to be a champion in this league. And the difference in many ways yesterday is guys like Mitchell, DeJean, Carter, etc. played incredible ball for Philly, while there are holes at, for instance, left tackle for the Chiefs because 2 years in a row they have missed on trying to address that in the draft. Having the picks is not good enough. You have to hit on them. So this is why, I trust Adam Peters to go trade picks for Myles Garrett because I also trust Adam Peters to use the picks that he has well. You have got to hit. And if you hit at the rate that Philly hits, you can build the best roster in the league. If you hit at the way Kansas City had hit for the 5 years prior to the last two, you can go back-to-back champs in the Super Bowl. You miss on a couple, and those are, you start to lose guys in free agency, and you need to replace them, and you miss. That is how you fall off from what Kansas City was to what Kansas City is, which is a team that failed for the first time in 3 years to win the Lombardi Trophy. That's our 1st and 10. We're going to talk much more about this game from every facet as we go. Meg McDonald's going to sit down and join us for part of that discussion. Next, it's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well in the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980, where you see television's Meg McDonald. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well. This is exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to be on TV. I was happy I did my hair today.
Yeah, I had to do a little product. I have a haircut on Wednesday, and I need it so badly. It's my YouTube stream that I did this morning, I just put on a hat. I was like, this is...
Yeah, but guys can get away with that.
I think you should wear a hat on television.
I don't think your hair looks bad, but if my
you
hair
should have
looks
seen it this
busted,
morning.
it's like, that's gross.
No, you should have seen it this morning. It was bad.
Okay, I don't believe you,
It was really
but
bad.
carry on.
I'll have to... Now I'm going to be like, hey, Meg, look at my hat hair picture.
Check out my haircut on Wednesday.
Yeah, no. Wednesday, it'll look great on the show because I'm getting the haircut at like 2. The show starts at 4. It can't possibly get – I don't want to jinx it. Anyway, we're going to talk more Super Bowl with Meg, who, of course, is the host of By the Book Bets on Monumental Sports Network, where normally you finish your show, and then when we're broadcasting live here, you walk by and we go,
I say hi.
Hey, good to see you. Eventually we'll have you. Okay, bye, because I'm always in the middle of the segment.
I'm trying to get home, beat traffic, you know how it is in the DMV area.
And it's about to get 1,000 times worse, apparently.
Why?
Because
everyone's
the
working
return
again.
office
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, we'll save that conversation for another day. But, like, yesterday, so I was telling you in the break, I typically am not a sports gambler. I will, which has kind of been a funny bit on this show, because I went on an all-time heater this year picking games. We did a thing called Competition Wednesday where we picked 3 games each against the spread. Me and then my producer Anthony, who's sitting back in D.C. Probably.
Are we talking football?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And at one point during the season, there's you see Anthony waving on the screen there,
Hi.
who's just probably like, please don't bring up Competition Wednesday. I got to a point.
He's like second topic.
Yeah, I got to a point where I was 22-5 against the spread.
Oh my Lord.
I then lost 9 in a row.
Well, that's how it
because
goes.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
And so yesterday I was like, you want to know what? I'm going to add a little bit of extra fun to the Super Bowl.
It's the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. I threw down a couple. There was like a parlay here, and I Saquon is an anytime touchdown scorer, and that didn't count. Nothing.
What number
I just
did
lost
you get
$25
for
bucks.
Saquon?
I think it was minus
Anytime
180.
touchdown? Okay.
So,
I was
like,
seeing minus 190 out there, and I was like, what a terrible bet.
Right.
Like,
Which
who
the
makes
only
that
reason I
kinda
did
juice?
it was because there was a sweepstakes situation where it was like, if your anytime touchdown score hits, then you're entered in the sweepstakes. So I was like, let me take the favorite.
Sure.
That way I can get in on the sweepstakes money, even though I'm not going to make anything on this singular bet. And then I didn't make anything anyway.
You want to hear something crazy? We were talking to a guest. His name is Patrick Everson on our Friday show this past week. And he's like a Vegas reporter. Like, he tracks where the money is going. And he's told us live on our show that there were more Saquon Barkley handle and money coming in for anytime touchdown than there was on Chiefs or Eagles spread or money line or totals over under as well.
That is how they air condition the desert.
So
'cause
that's a
we're all
sucker
just
bet.
Yeah, we're just I wish had I known that.
Should have watched the show.
Well, see, Meg, you see, I have this show on at the same time. Where's the rerun?
I can understand how that could be difficult.
Yes. The
rerun is still during your show.
Okay, see, that's
Yeah,
not
doesn't
helpful.
work.
Okay, all right. Anthony, can we DVR Meg's show back in the studio? That way I do not make sucker bets in the future.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Done and
Got
done.
that.
Beautiful.
You were telling me in the break you had a million things going yesterday. How did your day go?
Woof. I got crushed. I was on the Chiefs pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I was on Chiefs money line. I was on Chiefs spread. I was on a double result, so Philly first half, Chiefs full game, which I was holding out hope.
So you,
Until I wasn't.
as Tom Brady's sitting there talking about, this could be his 28-3 moment. You're like, this could be my
I was like,
28-3 moment.
it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
We've seen this story so many times, right? But then eventually, it really started getting out of hand. I was like, okay, maybe not. And then, you know what? One Chiefs bet that did come through for me, which is kind of surprising. I was on a Chiefs fourth quarter only, plus money. And they did win the fourth quarter.
There you go.
So that cashed. But outside of that, I was
Were
on
you
tight ends that did not come through.
No.
Kelsey, Goddard, no. It was not a great day.
What was the most surprising thing, whether it's through this bet I made that I was very surprised and I had no chance at, or just generally watching the game? What was the most surprising thing to you about yesterday's game?
I feel like how quickly it got out of hand and how Chiefs players look so defeated.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And doesn't it feel like Chris Jones, there's going to be an injury report that comes out, and it feels like his is going to be a CVS receipt. He was banged up, and he was battling that entire game, and I feel like that weighs on a team, too, when one of your leaders is like that, and Pat Mahomes had no time. I mean, I feel like the storyline going into the Super Bowl was all about this Philly O-line, and they're massive, and they're 340 pounds. That graphic during the Super Bowl they showed was bananas.
Yeah.
But the story was their D-line and
Right.
how quickly they were able to get to Mahomes. And I feel like, yes, we saw Jalen Hurts win an MVP. That MVP deserved to go to the defensive line.
Yeah, I would have been fine with Josh Sweat got it.
Yeah, me too.
He was probably the best player on that unit. The fact that Pat dropped back 42 times and they did not blitz a single one. Like they had some simulated pressures and they got like that. Everyone's like, oh, but there was the Zach Bond play. It's like, yeah, that was a simulated pressure. That is a 4-man rush on what is supposed to be a very good 5-man offensive line, especially in terms of like, yeah, they obviously have struggled some individual one-on-one matchups. Like Tooney, you see, just gets blown off the ball by Josh Sweat, but like Creed Humphrey might be the best center in football.
Yeah.
And like to have a guy who can be like, that guy's coming, that guy. Pat's obviously on top of that stuff. And here comes Zach Bond just screaming unblocked up the middle. You're like, that was the most unprepared I have seen the Chiefs. And like, I know they obviously did prepare, but like they were studying for the wrong test. Like that was the thing that was crazy. To your point is like, to see Mahomes spiral and the Chiefs who have been there, done that, like spiral like that mentally, we're just like, they don't have a shot. They don't know what's happening to them right now. Like that was, and they're not pull out of it. Like that was crazy.
I just feel like it was a men against boys in the trenches. Like that's how good Philly was. And look, I understand like we're in DC. Like this is probably a Commanders heavy listening area, but that Philly defense is so young, and that's going to be not fun in the NFC.
I think I saw it's like they were the third youngest roster in the entire league.
They were so good.
Yeah.
Like they were just battle ready. Like they came in and they were not losing that game.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Jalen too, right? Is like, yes, is he? If I had to pick a quarterback just generally to plug into any offense around the league, he's not going to be in my top 10 guys. But
not top 10?
Like he might be like 9 or 10.
Okay.
But
that's
like,
where I would put him too. But I was like, come on, not top 10. He just won a Super Bowl.
I know. But like the thing is, like he's so perfect for them because like his biggest weakness, his biggest flaw is he holds on to the ball forever.
Agreed.
It doesn't matter because their offensive line's so good. But like the thing that he has that I think people underrate, and I probably have underrated this at times, he's steady. He's a leader. Like to have the third youngest roster in the league, and for them to all see like half those dudes weren't there when they lost the Chiefs 2 years ago, but it felt like they were all pissed off about it. And, like, I think that probably emanates from Jalen as much as it does. And, like, Sirianni's a crazy man. But, like, it also definitely emanates from Jalen and, like, this steadfast leadership that he has that I think there's other stuff that's underrated for him, too. Like, his ability to command the play at the line of scrimmage. That's something that my podcast co-host, Logan Paulson, who does the sidelines for the Commanders radio, he, like, noticed that about a couple of guys this year. Lamar was actually the other one that he, like, really commented on. He's like, I didn't realize till I was on the sideline watching these guys operate how much they control at the line of scrimmage. And so Jalen gets that for sure. But then also, like, his leadership is just next level. And I think that to be able to take that, what you were saying in terms of the youth of this roster, even though it's the defensive line like that we're talking about, yeah, it's that to me goes back to the quarterback and kind of the tone that he sets.
I do think it's interesting to see the different types of leadership when it comes to certain quarterbacks in the NFL, but we would be remiss to say, or to not say rather, that was the most talented team we've seen on a football field in a long time. Right?
Yeah,
like, I mean, not many
sure.
teams have the wide receivers like A.J. Brown, a tight end like Dallas Goedert. Like, those dudes, and then, of course, Saquon Barkley, who, like, the fact that we're not even talking about Saquon Barkley today is hysterical. Because if you would have told me going in as someone who was a Chiefs backer heavy that Saquon Barkley was held to under 60 rushing yards, I'd have been like, Chiefs won easily.
Yeah.
Forcing Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, and he did and was successful, that's surprising. Going back to your first question, what was the most surprising thing? How successful Jalen Hurts was in the air.
Right, and it's like, it's kind of this thing that people say all the time, and I probably said it last week previewing the game, like, oh, I'm going to make Jalen Hurts beat us. Well, then he did. So, like, what do you do about that?
Period.
What do you do about that? You lose the Super Bowl because there's no alternative. Like, the alternative was you take guys out of the box and you say, all right, well, Saquon, if you bust one, you bust one. Like, that's no way to play. I mean, they picked Hurts off too early. Like, they had their opportunities, and then I think, obviously you just talk about the Eagles' defense, and it's like, okay, well, that's where the game was really won. Anything else from the game that you thought was, like, really super interesting?
I think going back to when Hurts got picked off, that was one of the moments where I was like, this game is about to flip.
Yeah.
Right? We have seen this story again with Mahomes. He's down 10 points in the Super Bowl. And guess what? He wins. And then we've seen the Chiefs get away with one every single week. Like the entire regular season, they're getting away with these wins. And yes, it takes guts. It takes courage to be able to beat teams and find ways to win in the fourth quarter. But when Hurts got picked off, I was like, all right, this is it. This is what we've seen. The Chiefs will take advantage of opposing teams making mistakes. And fortunately for the Eagles, it was fine. And I feel like that was surprising because all season long the script has been you can't make mistakes against the Kansas City Chiefs because they're going to make you pay for it. And that was not the case.
Right. And it also just felt like their luck ran out. Like it
did.
There's an element of undeniable luck to any season. Right. And the Eagles have it too, right? Like they're one of the healthiest teams in the NFL. Like, you mentioned Chris Jones. Like, he's clearly banged up. He had the huge knee brace on. He goes down in the game. Who's hurt on the Eagles? Like, their O-line was banged up the NFC Championship game, and they overcame that.
Well, and I was fading the Eagles when Hurts, had the knee.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, he looks pretty good to me.
Yeah. And he looked outstanding.
Yeah.
I'm trying to literally think in my head position by position. Their whole O-line's good. The quarterback's good. The running back's good. The wide receivers are good. Goddard's good. Defensively, I think they got Brandon Graham back for the game.
Yeah.
I guess
honestly,
Nakobe
their biggest
Dean.
liability was their kicker at that point. Like, everyone
Right. And Jake Elliott, by the way, he reverted to being Jake Elliott in the playoffs. He's just like, I don't miss anymore. Okay, cool, great, fine, fantastic.
You couldn't
Congrats,
pay me
Eagles,
to be a
you win.
kicker, though.
Oh, you could pay me. They make really good money.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
I
you
know,
can.
but that's
I'm
so
not going to
much
last more than.
pressure.
I'm not going to last more than a game, but that's fine. Like, I'll take the game check. Their game check's probably bigger than my yearly salary.
I'm not even sure I want that.
Meg, this radio money's not as good as your TV money. That's all I'm saying. You can pay me to be a kicker any day.
I know, but everyone coming full force at you, I just no.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I'd be good at it. I'm not saying it wouldn't be scary, but
Even thinking
for
of
one of those game checks, I'll take it. Did you see the Eli Payton kick of destiny deal?
No.
Oh yeah, they did earlier in the day. People think kicking like a 20-yard field goal, which is something that nobody actually even does because you'd have to snap the ball from the 1-yard line, is easy. And then they get out there and you have two guys that are going to the Hall of Fame as quarterbacks that are like, okay, how athletic are you?
So
You
they
do 20.
kicked?
Yeah, no, this was a whole deal.
Oh my gosh, I missed this. What happened?
Yeah, so Peyton went first and shanked a 25-yarder.
Sure.
Eli went first and his 25-yarder didn't even make the end zone. And
Could you do it?
A 25-yarder
No
would
pressure,
be close.
just you on the field.
I could. I don't know about first try. I'm not I would go 10 for 10.
You have 3 tries.
I feel pretty good about that.
Really?
Yeah. Now 30.
I'm not making it.
30, no. 25, I think I could.
Okay.
But yeah,
I believe you.
Eli definitely pulled some muscles in training for it, and
Hamstrings.
But
Hamstrings will go.
Eventually, he hit a 20-yarder and won the deal.
It couldn't be me. I wouldn't want to try it. I know if you gave me 3 tries, if you were you win $1 million and you have 3 attempts, I'd be
I feel pretty good about that.
I have my doubts.
Anthony, how are your kicking skills? Do you think for 3 attempts, do we say 20 or 25 yards?
25.
25 yards. Are you making that?
Yes.
Are you toe poking it, or are you full soccer style kicking it?
Full soccer style kicking this.
Okay.
The thing is, I've already done this.
Okay. I believe you.
Tell us the story. I don't believe you.
Okay, I got you then. All right. So for my birthday last year,
let him get away
I
with
went
that
down.
so easily.
For my birthday, I went down to Atlanta, and I went to the College Football Hall of Fame. And in the College Football Hall of Fame, they have all these like competition and activities for everybody that comes in there and participates. So I got in line, and I want to say I kicked from 25. If it wasn't 25 yards, it was maybe 20. But there was a lot of distance on my kick, is what I'm going to tell you.
Okay, so it would have been, if it was only 20, it would have been good for 25.
Yes, no question.
So here's the other thing.
I'm going to see if I have the video. I'm going to see if I have the video and send it to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
send it to me, and then before Meg gets out of here, she's going to go beat traffic here very soon, but I will show her if it shows up on my phone. We also, Anthony, at the top of our rundown, we have to run 40s before the combine, don't we? And we are running out of time.
Yeah, we do.
What's
Yeah.
the time? What's the time?
I don't
we're trying
remember
to beat?
how that. We've been talking about doing it for 2 years.
Okay, so it's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. So you do
Let's
listen.
keep it moving.
So you do listen to the show. I think we can get this done this year. Anthony, how did it start? I think it generally
it's-
started with me being like, people don't understand how fast like a 5.0 40 is.
5.040 is fast.
Yeah, like for
it's
a
just
real
like
person.
not for the common folk.
Right, like for a normal person, that is blazing fast. For
Yeah.
an NFL, anything but offensive lineman, you're not fast enough to play in the league.
Okay, I ran a 40 so I was a gymnast in college.
Okay.
And then when I was done, I took one more semester so I could be like a normal person and enjoy college.
Yeah.
But my strength coach still like wanted to do workouts and stuff, which was cool. And I was going to intern with NFL Films. I'm like 20 years old, right? And he was like, we're going to put you through a combine before you get
Amazing.
to Mount Laurel. And I was like, I am so ready for this. Let's go. Like, let's prep. And I ran a 5.340, and I was like, that was the fastest. Like, I didn't have any room to go
And you
faster,
were-
and I was hurting.
D1 level
D1,
gymnast?
yeah.
And like, that's a powerful like sport. Like that is the
Thank
crossover.
you for saying that.
The crossover. Now I've got my fitness hat on. I know you have fitness hats too.
Yeah.
Like the crossover of gymnast to 40 time, except for stride length.
Well, because it's like a vault,
right. Exactly.
right? It's like a literal vault.
Exactly. Like,
except we have
I'm
to
su-
jump over something at the end of it.
If you could stretch Simone Biles to be 5'7", nevertheless
Yes,
4'7",
yes.
she would run like a 4.2. Her stride is just not long enough to run like a 4.3. Her power per step is probably every bit as fast as like a world-class sprinter.
I would agree with that.
She's.
She's just like bite size.
What is it like as someone who was a gymnast to watch Simone Biles?
Iconic. Like, it's hard for me to put into words, and I'm sorry to the listeners out there who did not sign up for gymnastics talk here today.
This is the show.
The day after the Super Bowl, which
Sometimes
this
we
is
swerve.
not what they want.
Just
but
remember, everybody, this started with 40 times.
the ability to pivot is very impactful. But I do say to the people who don't know gymnastics, I'm like, there's no comparing Simone to Michael Jordan or LeBron because no one will come close to the skills that she's throwing. Like, it's not physically possible for a lot of women to be able to do the skills she's doing. So she does skills that men can do, but men have different muscles and, they're taller and faster and stronger. And, like, women just don't have the biological makeup to do the things somehow Simone does.
Right.
So there
She's
won't
such
be-
a rare.
There just won't be another person who can match that level of difficulty.
But also, aren't there some things she does that like men also haven't done?
Yes.
Because like,
Also, it's crazy.
yeah, like she's just the perfect combination of like compact, powerful. I don't even know what
Mentally
other.
tough.
Yeah.
Like,
it's crazy.
you can be elite. You can be an elite athlete and not have it up here, and then who cares?
Yeah, it's.
You gotta have it all.
I'm trying to think of like what the best that I can think of is like it would be like Steph Curry when he first got in the league, and we're like, wait, you're allowed to do that? Like, and he's taking shots from 38 feet, and you're like, that's not supposed to be how basketball works.
And here's the difference, though. Like, Steph Curry can change the game, and people adapt to
yeah.
the range, right?
Right.
You have
Now you
kids
have Dame,
today
you
who
have
are
Trey,
just
yeah.
stretching the floor, and that's what the game is.
Right.
No one will be able to match what her level of game is.
Yeah.
Like, it's not humanly possible.
Yeah.
Unless you're one person in the world, and it's Simone.
That's well put. That's well put. Everybody, television's
Hey.
Meg McDonald with us here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, we're going to talk. Oh, I have a.
Do we have the video?
Hold on. He says I might have missed it.
Of course.
Ha-
No! Oh my
Hold
gosh!
on, hold
Yes! Yes!
Oh, we got.
I
Hold
knew
on.
it,
We
I
have
knew
dancing.
it.
We got full
Oh
warm
my gosh!
ups.
Look at the warm ups.
He's making sure he doesn't pull a hamstring.
This is hysterical. Cool team shirt.
Let's see. Anthony, does anyone cuss on this video? I need to make sure that I hold it away from the microphone. Actually, we'll just go
I
ahead and pull the
will
volumes
lose
down.
it if you miss this.
You got it full. We got a step. Oh, we got the finger up in the air. He's testing the wind.
I love how seriously you're taking it.
You also toe poked it and you missed wide left.
Was it really wide?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, that was
I
definitely.
knew it. You let him get away with that story way too easily without any.
It had the distance. It had the distance.
It went straight up and straight down, is what I saw.
Yes.
Anthony,
That is so funny.
having the distance is not how field goals work. How long have you been watching
You're
football?
right.
The ball has to go through the uprights.
Right.
Yeah. Like I go out there on center court here at Capital One Arena, fling up a half-court shot, like hit someone in the second row in the face, and be like, I don't know, it had the distance.
Look, 3 opportunities. I like my odds.
Okay. All right. Now
That's funny.
we're going to have to go to a field. We'll bring a camera. We'll run 40s, make sure we're nice and loose, and then we'll see if we can kick field goals. We have to get a holder, though. I'm not holding for you. I'm not breaking a finger when you kick my fingers.
That's fair.
Okay, thank you.
You
I
know
don't
what
expect
the
you to do
difference
that either.
is between men and women?
There's so
you
many.
men are so confident. Like the way you were like, I could do it, and then he goes, I have
But, like,
done it, and then no, you didn't.
I understand my own limitations. If you told me it was 30 yards, I have zero confidence.
The 5 yards do it.
I mean, it's 15 feet. That's a long way.
I get it.
And I think that people
I
don't.
said no from the jump. I was like,
Yeah.
couldn't be me.
All right, well, more challenges for us to fail at and embarrass ourselves at. If we succeed, Meg will be back at some point. If not, then we're going to ban her from the show.
Oh
Meg
my gosh,
McDonald.
I just did double thumbs up. I hate that for me.
Meg McDonald, everybody. Catch her. What time daily?
By the book, well, the season just ended. So
Okay.
now I'm just waiting to see about the Mystics. We have a Mystics presser on Wednesday to
Yes,
introduce
see
the
you
new
there.
head coach.
We'll be
and then
live,
the
I think, on
GM.
YouTube after that.
Yeah,
for
that'll
that.
be fun. So
So I'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Mystic stuff is coming. We'll see Meg on Wednesday. Back to the Super Bowl next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show, live from Capital One Arena here about, 2 hours from tip-off between the Wizards and the San Antonio Spurs. Victor Wembanyama in the house tonight, so we figured we'd be in the house tonight. Hopefully looking forward to seeing some of y'all on the way down here. We're outside section 106, 107. If you want to come say hello, the only ground rule is don't say hello during the show. Wait till a commercial break. Like, you can wave, be like, hey, hi. But no, during the show, Anthony, I'm trying to do the show. And my ADD is very bad. And we can't have people talking to me during the show. Otherwise, Metal Chris will have to stick on him. And that can get scary for folks. Yeah, he's the muscle over there. You couldn't see it on the camera, but he held up a fist and was like, I'll
boy, I oughta.
Yeah, boy, I oughta give you a knuckle sandwich. Anyway, apropos of none of that, it is the Hoffman Show. We are live on the Team 980. We're also live on YouTube at the Team 980. Yes, we will be compiling a YouTube short, a TikTok, an Instagram reel of the absolute insanity that just happened while Meg McDonald was here. And Anthony thought that he had video of him making a kick, sent the actual video only to reveal that he missed said kick. I cannot wait to see what we do with that in the old social department, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, I thought memory served me correctly, Craig, and I was sadly mistaken, and yeah, that's what happened. But I will say, if you've never been to the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, it actually is a pretty cool little exhibit that they have down there.
Yeah, I've heard the College Football Hall of Fame is actually awesome.
Yeah,
I also know that, like, I think if I tee it up from 15 yards, and pretty sure I can make a field goal from, like, the 15-yard line, you have the 10 yards to the end zone, that's a 25-yard field goal. I feel pretty good about my ability to do that. Yeah. I am a good enough all-around athlete. But, again, like, once we get out to the 30, 35, like, no, I don't feel great about that.
Yeah.
Like, I've done enough kicking of a ball recently where, like, when I go work, like, Ashley Hatch's soccer camps, like, I can play a ball.
Okay.
And that's a soccer ball.
Yeah, I gotta see it, Craig. Though we still got to do the 40.
We do.
They didn't have the 40 at the College Football Hall of Fame. They did have the vertical jump.
They have those at, like, the NFL experience situations. And you, like, run into the pad at the end. But I want to get a proper warm up in and really see what happens if I let it rip.
I'm gonna need like a 30-minute warm up before I run it.
If I know a guy who can help us get warmed up, it's me. I'm the guy.
There it is.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out. The field out behind my house. We just got to pick a good weather day.
And when is the combine?
I leave on Tuesday the 25th, I think it is. 25th or the 26th, whatever that Tuesday is.
Do you think it's going to be cold?
In Indy or here?
Oh, I guess here I was more so thinking, but it's going to be cold there as well.
Yeah, no, it'll be cold there as well. I mean, let's check the weather real quick. We'll get back to the Super Bowl in a second. By the way, we're also going to take your – I probably should have said this before Anthony and I got distracted. But 301-230-0980, your take on the Super Bowl, the thing that you think is most important from the game, whether that's just the game itself, the history that was not made, for instance, could be something that you want to chime in on, what it means for the Commanders. When you watch that game, do you feel better or worse about Washington? 301-230-0980. Yeah. There's some random warm days coming, but not many of them. Tell you where I want to run mine. I'm going to Phoenix next week. I want to run my 40 out in Phoenix because it's warm there.
Yeah, it's going to be way better temperature out there. So.
Yeah, so I might just throw a stopwatch in and be like, Rachel, need you to time me, and then you can run it in the cold here. And sorry to your hamstrings. But Anthony, that is something that I couldn't stop thinking about last night. Watching that game is like, man, the Commanders, like, tomorrow I want to talk more specifically about whether we thought they could have beaten the Chiefs, but, like, everyone kind of talked about Washington in a way that they were lucky to be there, right? Oh, they're lucky they made the NFC Championship game. What a run. You should be proud. And I think you can pretty safely say that after week 6, after the Eagles' Week 5 bye, did any team play Philadelphia, the ultimate Super Bowl champions, better than Washington?
I mean, I would say the Rams, because the play Jalen Carter made to basically seal the game for the Eagles. If he doesn't beat the guard and center and like come unfree, there's a wide open touchdown to Puka Nacua, who was on like a reverse zig. But outside of that, I think we played them the best, to be honest.
And you played them 3 times. So the Eagles, remember, they opened the season in Sao Paulo. They beat the Packers. They then lose to the Falcons in week 2 by 1. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. Oh, what a weird, long NFL season it was. They beat the Saints 15-12 at New Orleans in week 3. They lose 33-16 to the Bucs in week 4. They only beat the Browns by 4 in week 5. They then have their bye. They come out and they smash the Giants. They beat the Bengals by 20. They play a tight game against the Jags. Smash the Cowboys, 34-6. Commanders, they had that Thursday night game, 26-18, where Washington's got the lead going into the fourth quarter. They beat the pants off the Rams. They beat Baltimore in a tighter game. This is also where Jalen's knee was a little banged up in the middle. They play Carolina close, and then they come out, they whip the Steelers. Their only loss since week 5 was to Washington, 36-33. They smashed the Cowboys again, 41-7. They beat the Giants at home to close the regular season, 20-13. So after week 5, when they had their bye, there was one team that beat the Philadelphia Eagles. One. And it was Washington. And they played them 3 times. And in the first matchup, Washington held the lead going into the fourth quarter. 2 Saquon runs later, Washington loses. Second time, despite 5 turnovers, Washington beats them. And then they obviously turn it over 4 more times and don't really give themselves a chance. Although that game was it was closer for longer than you'd think. And then it got really, really sideways at the end. But, there was a point in the second half where you're like, man, if they can get a score and a stop, and then the Eckler fumble happens and it's all over. But that, most Baltimore played them close. There's a couple other teams that played them close. Washington probably played Philadelphia better than anyone else. And I think that's something that the Commanders can, you don't get a trophy. I'm not saying go print little mini Lombardis and be like, played the Eagles close. You don't get anything for that other than, the pride. And then I think looking at it objectively from an analysis seat, that's awesome. I think that's great. Let's take that into the offseason for next year. But, I think that is something that not only when you think about the accomplishments, if you will, of this season, only team to beat Philly post-bye, but if you think about, okay, now everyone's going to have to gear themselves to beat this Philadelphia team, is Washington arguably closer to being able to do that than any other team, certainly in the division, if not the conference, if not the entire league?
Yeah, I think even when you look at yesterday's game, I think did the Eagles generate 2 turnovers?
Yeah, they picked off Mahomes twice, Vaughn and DeJean.
Yeah, so I think even if you take away those turnovers, the game was still, dominated by the Eagles. Yeah. And I think with the Commanders, you took away our turnovers, and it's a way more competitive game. We just had, the right approach. Jaden knew what to do. He's very quick, very decisive in his decision-making. And I think that's just ultimately the difference in this game. And I think that's sort of kind of what made Philly so good this year, the fact that just turned teams over at a very extremely high rate. And I think they said yesterday that plus 12 was the best, turnover margin for any team to win a Super Bowl. So I think you just got to take your hats off to that Eagles defense just because all season long they've proved that they've been able to, take the ball away. And that's how they were able to win games.
For sure. And that's the thing is when people be like, oh, my God, the Commanders beat themselves. They have 4 turnovers. It's yeah. I mean, there's a couple of those, especially where I think Eckler and Diami make decisions where you're just don't double back, Diami. Just get up the field and dive, bro. And then Eckler just stay down, man. But you have to credit the Eagles for creating those turnovers. The way they attack the football is something that clearly they practice. You could see it yesterday. They didn't. They obviously get the 2 picks, but they're scraping at the ball. They knocked it out of Mahomes' hand another time. He fell on it. Yep. They they get after the ball in a way that, like, if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm showing a lot of Eagles tape. Be like, guys, this is what we want as our standard. We can do this. And so some of it is the interceptions and the way they play their zones and the man match stuff, and like they're just incredible. But the fumbles that they force, the collisions that they cause, like it is a feature, not a happy accident of their defense that is what it is. And so I think that if you're Washington as well, knowing that going in to next year, you definitely are like, hey guys, when we play Philadelphia, our ball security, our ball control, like, hey guys, we're in the coach settings in Madden. We've put ball carrier on conservative. Like we're not out here trying to do too much because otherwise you're not going to give yourself a shot. And the thing is, this Philly team is so talented that if you give them extra possessions, if they've got 8 possessions and you've got 6, like you're not going to win the football game. You can't overcome that kind of deficit. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. We'll keep this conversation going and get you involved in it. 301-230-0980 next on the Hoffman Show. the halfway point of our show coming up in about 15 minutes. We're really closer to halfway now because we're on until 6:45 tonight, live at Capital One Arena, ahead of Wizards and Spurs. So pregame 6:45. But typically the halfway point of our show is 5:30, and that feels like an appropriate point for us to talk about the halftime show last night. So we will talk about what Kendrick Lamar did last night, coming up at 5:30. We will talk to Dave Johnson at 6. And I can't remember what we're doing the rest of the show. We're talking about the Super Bowl. It's Monday after Super Bowl. Sports Dog Radio Show. What do you think we're doing? We're talking about the Super Bowl. And Anthony, we were just talking about the pressure that the Eagles were able to get on the Chiefs. And you brought up a really good point in the break about how that kind of reframes what you think about the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, definitely. I think all season long, a lot of people were, given or complaining about the Commanders' offensive line and, us not giving Jaden time. And I feel as though after looking at yesterday's game, we need to be applauding, giving those guys a pass on the back because Jaden had more than enough time to, be able to, decipher what he was seeing, step up in the pocket a few times. But yesterday, oh, my gosh, they were getting home in like 1.5 seconds. Mahomes had nothing to do. He couldn't back up. He couldn't step up into the pocket. So I just think yes, there's room to improve on our offensive line, but at the same token, it's just I want to take a step back and give our guys a pat on the back just because he had a little bit more time than Patty, I would say.
No, he definitely did, and actually I can look this up specifically because thanks to the Next Gen Stats time to throw stat, like I can tell you literally how much time that they had to throw each. In the NFC Championship game, Jaden's time to throw. Well, actually, this isn't necessarily a great measure in terms of pressures and whatever, but I'll give you a couple stats. Time to throw is 2.7 seconds, but that's not necessarily like how much time he had to throw. That's how much time till he did. Pat, 3.07. For reference, Jalen in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts, 3.37 seconds to throw. So that's your average time to throw. So it tells you that Jaden was able to get the ball out faster than Pat was, which is also probably why Jaden had a 25.5% pressure percentage. He was pressured 14 times on 48 dropbacks, where Pat, 38.1%, 16 pressures on 32 dropbacks, which I realize 16 divided by 32 is 50, but I don't know how that math exactly works. I think it takes out some of some other stuff. Well, I guess not every single drop back winds up in an attempt. So that counts sacks, that counts throwaways, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, 38.1% QB pressure percentage on 42 total dropbacks. Mahomes ultimately gets 32 attempts off in those 42 dropbacks, and thus your 38.1 pressure percentage. Jaden, again, 14 quarterback pressures on 50-something dropbacks. He had 48 attempts in the NFC Championship game. But, I'm of two minds on this, Anthony. One, I agree with you. We should not overstate how bad the Commanders' offensive line was when it wasn't. This is another supposedly solid offensive line that I know the Chiefs, again, have been banged up. They've had some issues at left tackle, but they've got a great coach. They've got a quarterback who's supposed to be able to avoid it, and it just hasn't been a problem for them all year. It was against the Eagles. But at the same time, I don't want to understate what that means moving forward. This Eagles team is probably going to lose Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, but they're probably still going to be one of the best defensive lines in football. Yep. And if this is what it takes to win a championship, then yeah, upgrading your offensive line is going to be a priority for this team. And unfortunately, one of the guys that's going to be one of the great dudes available in free agency. I don't want to downgrade this guy off of one game, but Trey Smith is the top free agent available. He's the right guard for the Chiefs, who Jalen Carter had a pretty decent day against.
Man, yeah, he had a huge day. But also, it just speaks volumes to that D line. So reinforcements up front all across the board, and then just knowing how to combat what Philly is trying to take away from you. I mean, it's easier said than done. It truly is. And I think even Friday when we were talking about the game, we were talking about, it being a chess match, Kansas City being able to, dink and dump. And that's what they did I mean, that's what they weren't able to do yesterday. Vic Fangio and the Eagles, they did a great job just sitting on all the short routes, not allowing them to, hit Kelsey for a quick hitch or, anybody out of the backfield. It was just too much for them to overcome, to be honest.
I'm really surprised at the lack of RPOs. Like, if you need to be able to put Bond specifically, but Bond, DeJean, Burks, those guys in conflict, to not do that with something that directly targets them to put them in conflict seems like a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know more about football than Andy Reid. I'm sure he had a good reason why he chose the game plan that he did. It didn't work, so it's easy to be like, and with the benefit of hindsight, hey, Andy, don't you wish you would have done something else? Yeah, of course I would, says one of the greatest winners that the sport has ever seen. But by the same token, that was a formula that worked some for Washington, and it would have worked obviously better had they not fumbled the freaking football. But it's not like Washington punted a bunch, and I think that was the other thing. And then, the other thing that this kind of brings up is a universal truth about football. You think of all these teams that we're talking about in terms of who the Eagles are in company with: 2013 Seahawks, the 2000 Ravens. They had outstanding pass rush. Specifically, I think of that 2013 Seahawks team with DQ, right? Outstanding pass rush without blitzing. The 2000 was it the 07 Giants, the ones that beat Brady?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 18-1 Patriots. Yeah, it was 07-08 season. So that Giants team, notoriously, famous for having a deep crew, to use DQ's term, deep crew that gets home with 4, right? It was the Justin Tuck, Michael Strahan, O.C. Umenyiora, all them dudes.
Oh.
And, if you can do that simple, when there's 11 guys on the field, if you can add just one more body to coverage and not lose your ability to get pressure, it is arguably the biggest defensive game changer in the sport. And in the NFC Championship game, they blitzed Jaden Daniels 12.5% of the time. In the Super Bowl, they blitzed Patrick Mahomes 0% of the time.
Big fat 0.
Which is crazy. And I think it's not only having the extra body and coverage, but the best quarterbacks in the league. And this is something that Jalen deserves a lot of credit for, too, by the way, because he was really bad against the blitz, and he was so much better this year. Kellen Moore gets credit for this, and it's something that the new Eagles OC is going to have to figure out. That was the biggest gripe about, what Sirianni and Brian Johnson were running last year, and a lot of people put this on Sirianni, is that they didn't give Jalen Hurts answers against the blitz. Kellen Moore did, and it was just a small tweak in their offense. And then you add, obviously, the Saquon supercharger, but it was still a very run-heavy offense last year. But you got to have answers against the blitz, and you've got to have a quarterback who can beat it. But I think the next level of that is what guys traditionally like Pat and Jaden do, which is if you blitz, I kill you. I see where that blitz is coming from. I know where I need to slide my protection. I get it picked up, and I know where the ball needs to go. And you don't expose that weakness. There's no risk if you don't blitz. And so you get to play no risk, high reward because you're that good with your 4-man pressure. And, if I'm Washington, I'm just going, thank God Williams and Sweat are going to go, and you hope that the decrease in personnel is good enough or is enough, plus whatever additions you make on the O-line to be better than them next year. Because if not, there's no real solution. I saw a great post last night. Someone was like, I think it might have been Bill Barnwell, was like, I don't know what the Andy Reid adjustment for they're better at us than at every position is. And that's kind of how the rest of the league is looking at this Eagles team right now. Is like, well, bleep, if they're this good everywhere, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And even going back to what you were talking about on the defensive line, we talk about Milton Williams, having an impact yesterday in the NFC title game. It was Jordan Davis, and I don't even think Jordan Davis played that much yesterday. I didn't hear his name.
He was in there at some point because I saw him dancing. It's very
he didn't have all that big of an impact. He wasn't playing that much. Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, they were wreaking havoc all games, and the fact that they had a lead, they were just able to peel their ears back and just go, man. They were going.
I told you this stat in the break, and now we've come full circle. I can say it on the air because I've remembered, and you reminded me. 0 times with the ball in their hands in this game did Chiefs running backs run 10 miles an hour.
My
so they
goodness.
never got started to the point, this is per Next Gen Stats, they never got started to the point that they accelerated to 10 miles an hour.
Yeah,
That
that's-
is insane. Mahomes had 2 runs where he got up to 15 plus. Nobody on Kansas City running the football that was a running back even got to 10 miles an hour in this game. Crazy. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, do we have calls, Anthony?
Yeah, we got a couple of calls.
All right, tell you what. Let's do this. Let's do calls next. 5:45, I want to talk about Kendrick and the halftime show that was freaking outstanding. And then we will talk to Dave Johnson about the Wizards as we're live at Capital One Arena at 6 here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're going to take some calls here, and then we will get to our chat about the halftime show here at about 5:45, so about 15 minutes away. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Our Team 980 listener line is 301-230-0980. Taking your calls on the Super Bowl. Let's start off with Kelly. Kelly, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, thanks, man. Hey, just 2 observations. I think Philly defense made Kansas City look old and slow really quickly. And their front four was outstanding. They're really well coached. They're disciplined. And I think Washington fans should take solace in the fact that our team gave them everything they wanted. If we play a clean game, you know, who knows what can happen. I think the only thing you can really do with that team is make them defend for 10, 11, 12 play drives and have a quarterback that is a threat to extend plays and make plays with his legs. I mean, you got to get the ball out quick. You got to play a clean game, and you have to make that defense, like you like to say, you have to threaten them with multiple things they have to do. But, hey, hats off to Philly. They're the standard, and it's good that we know what we got to build in order to get to the next level.
For sure. Thanks for the call, Kelly. And I think the thing you have to do to put it in a slightly different way, just to try to explain it even further, is like you have to create space because the way that Philly plays, they just are suffocating. They take the air completely out of your defense or of your offense. There's just nowhere to go. The windows are really tight. The running lanes are really tight. So how do you loosen them up? How do you threaten different areas of the field? How do you create matchups? And Kansas City was just really stagnant in a kind of bizarre way yesterday, where I think Washington did a better job of let's use this little bit of motion or let's use a formation to challenge their rules. Let's bunch guys up over here and see can they sort out their match rules against a bunch. Can we, if we put Zach Ertz in a weird place, create a matchup that we like either for him or someone else? Let's move Terry around a little bit like they did in that second matchup. Put him in the slot. Let's get him out on a certain guy and challenge. Know that we have this slant and know that hey, all right, this slant route against Darius Slay, like Slay's going to play this well, but our guy's Terry McLaurin, and next thing you know, he's breaking a tackle and going for a touchdown. In the run game, can you use the quarterback run element? That was another thing that I was really surprised about. Why didn't they run Mahomes at all? Like, I guess things were kind of getting out of hand quickly, but, I mean, that whole first half, why do you not run Patrick Mahomes? Have him pull a read option just to loosen things up. See what happens. Because I think that's something where Jaden, they shut it down pretty well, did Philly, for the most part. Now, him as a scrambler running is a different story. But design quarterback runs, they did pretty well, but it just gives them something else to think about. It holds that linebacker for an extra half second so that the next time he pulls it, he can throw the RPO slant. Challenge the perimeter with some screens. Kansas City's one of the best screen teams for the last decade. I mean, Andy Reid, for 30 years, has been the best screen coach in the league probably. They tried like one, and it got blown up. Pat had to dirt it, and it's an illegal man downfield penalty that just gets declined. Where was the wide receiver screen game? Where's the running back screen game? Like, it just felt like Kansas City was really stagnant and really unimaginative. I mean, they always have something. They didn't try a trick play yesterday. They always have something in the Super Bowl, and it's something that I think that if you're Cliff and you're watching and you're thinking about how do I beat this team next year, those types of things are things that are already a part of your package as an OC, and leaning into them more against a team like Philly is probably the best way to go. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Ford. Ford, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Craig?
What's up, Ford? I'm good. How are you?
Hey, good, buddy. Good. Hey, a couple comments about yesterday, then I have a question for you. I really think the game was over. I view it as a 40-6 game. I think the last two scores were just garbage. So, that helps me anyway take a little bit of the sting out of the NFC Championship game because I'm very proud of our guys, and we played them much tougher than anybody else has played them. And I was also kind of in a at the same time, the Eagles winning made me feel, and us getting to the championship game, and it brought back some NFC East pride, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I think all roads now go through the NFC East, mainly Philly at the moment. And with that, I'll segue into my question. Do you think, yesterday's game impacts AP, as far as is he going to become more aggressive or change his view on what to focus on, in free agency in the draft, or is he going to stay maybe kind of sort of predetermined course, or what are your views on the impact that the game may have had on AP and his future.
Yeah, Ford. Thanks for the call as always, man. Appreciate it. Always thoughtful. And I have been thinking about this quite a bit. And I think the answer is yesterday probably didn't teach Adam Peters anything. It just strengthened views that he probably already had. I think he knows that he's got to beat Philadelphia, that this team is young, this team is good. I got to play him twice a year. I got to play him to get out of my conference to even get to the Super Bowl. So before I think about building a team that can beat a Lamar, a Burrow, a Mahomes, a Josh Allen, the AFC's top guys, if you want to throw Stroud in there as a two-time in 2-year division winner as well, that we think will probably be better and return to a better performance overall next year in the Texans, sure. But like those quarterback-driven teams, right? I think you know that in the NFC, he's got the team that he built out in helped build out in San Francisco that's lurking, that is probably on the downside, but was a physical football team. And a lot of teams were built to beat them. And the Lions are built that way. Their lines of scrimmage are fantastic. Aiden Hutchinson will return for Detroit next year. And then you have this Philly team that's the class of all of it. This Philly team that is nasty on both lines of scrimmage. I mean, even teams like Minnesota, like they spent money on Grenard. They've got some first-rounders up front. Like Kevin cares about the lines of scrimmage. He knows how important that is. Kwesi, their GM. So whether it's teams that are the Vikings and the Packers level or the Lions and the Eagles level, you have to be able to protect the quarterback and get after the quarterback if you're going to succeed in the NFC. That's how these teams are built. And there's talent all over the field. Now, they have a bit of a zig where a lot of other teams are zagging in that they have the best quarterback in the conference. That's helpful. But I think yesterday just proved something that we kind of already knew about the Eagles, how good their roster is, the depth, etc., versus it teaching some, I mean, sure, there's things you can learn from the game specifically, but I don't think it introduced any new ideas. Let's wrap up with Gary in Upper Marlboro. Gary, thanks for calling as always. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hi, Craig. How are you? Hope things are well. I think that Super Bowl went the way that I thought it was going to go. Not a blowout. I thought Philly was going to win because I think they had the better roster. They have been playing well all year. Kansas City has kind of been winning with, smoke and mirrors for a lot of the season. And I just think that they showed that they have elite talent all over the field. And that's the team that Adam Peters, like you said, 2 times a year and potentially in the playoffs, that's the team that you have to try to bridge the gap on. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen in one offseason. I think that Adam Peters has to still be measured in his approach on how he's going to fulfill the talent on his team. I don't agree with going out and necessarily spending a bunch of money on Sweat. I think he's a good player, but as long as you play him like he's pay him like he's a good player and not a great player, then go after him. But I think that we got 28 free agents and got $70-80 million. That's a lot of money, but that's a lot of free agents. So I think that he needs to, when he's identifying free agents, hopefully he's looking at free agents that can help them beat Philadelphia going forward.
For sure. Yeah, Gary, I agree. And yeah, thanks for the call. And that's a good point that Gary made. I'll just add more context. This is not disagreeing or going against the grain of what Gary said. Like, I do think that I think of it more as closer to $100 million because I do think John Allen will eventually get cut. That's going to be another 20. But still then, you're talking about 29 players on your roster. If Gary's number of 28 free agents is right, you cut John. That's 29 players that you have to re-sign or replace. Some of that will happen with your draft picks. Some of that might happen with guys that are already in-house that you sign to futures contracts, guys that were on the practice squad this year, etc. But at the end of the day, like, they have a lot of holes to fill. That said, that wouldn't stop me from going after a guy like Myles Garrett because the goal. Like, anybody you draft, if they were to eventually turn into Myles Garrett, that would be an absolute dream come true. But if you can just have the thing that you want right now, especially because you're trying to be competitive right now, you should take that thing right now, especially if it doesn't sacrifice. Like, I mean, one thing if Myles was like, I'm coming for one season and then I'm going to retire. But that's not how this would work. And so I think that they're going to have to draft really well. They're going to have to be smart in free agency. I would hope that guys like Bobby come back on very similar deals to last year. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of stuff that you got to get done. There's a lot of moving pieces. But the foundation in Washington is as strong as you can possibly have it because you have a central pillar in Jaden Daniels to build around. And that is, again, especially on a rookie contract, the most valuable piece you can have in the entire sport. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, Kendrick Lamar, halftime. That was art. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And it's time now to talk about the one-act play that was Kendrick Lamar last night at the Super Bowl halftime show. And, Anthony, often Super Bowl halftime is more performance than art. There's always going to be artful pieces to it. And ironically, I think one of the best art pieces that's happened in the last couple of years prior to what Kendrick did last night was Kendrick when he was a part of the Beyonce halftime. And obviously when Beyonce showed up a couple of years ago, Beyonce's always has a huge artistic storytelling element. And what I mean specifically between performance and art is if you go and see, I don't know, the Chainsmokers or someone who's just I'm here to throw on a party. They can have a great performance and people can have a great time. Art is when you're telling a story as well, and there is a larger purpose, and it is often holding up a mirror to society. And Kendrick was the right guy, to put it lightly, and to play off of the performance and some of the choices that he made, the right guy for the moment. And I think that there's no way to talk about this without talking about the political moment that we're in. There's no way to talk about this without talking about where we are as a country, where we are as a world, the things that we value, the things that we don't, the hypocrisy that is at play all around us. And I think before I'm not going to get too deep into any of those because ultimately, I don't have time to do it proper justice. There's plenty of great pieces explaining a lot of the symbolism that happened and all that that are out there on the internet from people that are much smarter than me and study this stuff. But that's the point, right? We talk about stuff that's a feature, not a bug. The fact that he was I want y'all to talk about this is the point. Having Samuel L. Jackson play Uncle Sam and the questions that are asked in that performance, the interior push and pull and tug at Kendrick as a famous black man in America, literally standing in the middle of a divided American flag, that, the depth of which he demands all of us to examine everything is just so next level good that it's just hard to describe. I certainly can't do it succinctly here. And also the fact that that is who he is every time he produces a piece of art.
Every single time.
It's hard to put into words, truly, other than, actually it's not that hard to put into words. He's the greatest of all time. At that thing, at the ability, certainly within the rap genre, to say, I am going to tell a story. I'm going to demand that we ask ourselves of these questions as a society. I'm going to challenge, frankly, a lot of white people to ask questions about stuff, to see the black experience in America. And nobody better than Kendrick Lamar. And the fact that he did that at the freaking Super Bowl where oh, you can't do that. It's too controversial. You can't be popular. People that are telling on themselves to be oh, why couldn't they pick someone more popular? Oh, you mean more popular than the guy that just won the Grammy for record and song of the year? The guy that would be more popular than a 9-time Grammy winner? To be more popular than the guy that the NFL picked to perform at the Super Bowl at halftime? It doesn't get more popular than that. That's the point.
Yeah, I think there were, two groups of people that, chose to really embrace, what message was being sent at the Super Bowl. And then there were some people that were sort of kind of being stubborn, not really wanting to understand, all right, what's going on? Why is he saying this? The purpose behind the act in the first place. And I'm one of those people that thoroughly just enjoy being able to resonate with some of the stuff that he was getting at, because I too am a black man in America. Some of the struggles he endures, I endure. So there's that relatability, but also just that aside, I think there's just a bigger message and a bigger picture that he was getting at. And it just went over some people's heads, and it's sad. Granted, I do understand.
It's a lot to digest. Like, I'll give people that. Like, especially if you're not familiar with his work. Like, you're going to need to read 3 think pieces. What I would just tell anybody listening who is like, I don't know, like, it just wasn't for me. Like, I'm not telling you have to be like, oh, that's my new favorite artist. But, like, go read a piece. Go understand. Like, what you watched was not a musical performance. It was
and I
it
think
was
that's
musical
what people
theater.
come for.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like, was that one of the
fair.
5 or 10 best pure entertainment grade halftime performances that have been had? Like, the way Beyonce was, the way that Prince was, right? Like, it can be something recent. It can be something previous. Like, sure. Okay, fine. You can say that it was simple. I don't know if you saw T-Pain's reaction video.
No, I haven't seen it.
It was so funny because he's like, I always thought, like, I couldn't put together a set for, like, would you ever do Super Bowl halftime? No, I can't put together a set like that. And he's like, maybe I can, because if you got bangers like that, you don't have to do a million different things. I mean, like, there was so much symbolism in the sets, and it wasn't like it was simple and there was nothing to it, but it wasn't this pyro, fireworks, a million things. Like, it was simple. The point was what he was saying and the story. And for that, like, no, the entertainment value was not as high as some of the other ones, like when Bruno did it. But from just an artistic performance to appreciate what was happening, like, that man put on a 13-minute play about America at the Super Bowl in front of the sitting president, who was a part of that story and not necessarily as a hero. And when I say not necessarily, that's me being far kinder than is reality. He's not in that story as a hero. And to do that, first of all, it takes guts. And Kendrick he's got guts. But then also, I think the thing that I've seen a lot from a bunch of really smart people that I respect a ton is, like, everyone obviously is like, Not Like Us is about Drake. And Drake died his 18,000th death yesterday in this feud. And by the way, J. Cole, salute to you, sir. My man's got out at the right time.
Yeah, he's
at
a smart
the beginning.
man.
He's like, I'm good here. Like, he saw where that was going.
Yep.
So you have that element, like the Drake element as well, but it's not just, and like him smiling, by the way, at the camera when he says, "Hey, Drake," that was chef's kiss. Can't do it better.
Yeah.
The haterades on 10. But that song's actually about a lot more than Drake. It's about people who appropriate culture and you know, who will dip in specifically to black culture just to try to make a quick buck. And even though Drake is half black, he's like, no, you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. And, like, that is not just about Drake. And so to again, just to be like, no, I'm gonna say this to America with the biggest possible audience that exists on television. But might have been 100 million people watching that. Like, salute to you, Kendrick Lamar. Because there's a lot of, I mean, you don't take the check, right? Because the NFL doesn't pay for Super Bowl halftime. It's like you get the honor of doing Super Bowl halftime. But there's a lot of people that would have been like, all right, I'm just going to go perform some songs off the Black Panther album. And, you know, that middle section, which, if it's not done in the context in which they provide of, like, this is what America wants, to draw that contrast of, like, the palatable version of him, if you will, for mass appeal, there's a lot of people that just would have done 12 minutes of that and been like, yep, cool, let's see if we can sell some albums. That's not why Kendrick Lamar makes music. And we got the full why Kendrick Lamar makes music yesterday, and it was awesome. And again, there's a ton of great pieces out there that can explain some of the symbolism and things. If you're more interested, highly recommend checking those out. And salute to Kendrick on an all-timer yesterday. All right, when we get back, Dave Johnson joins us live here at Capital One Arena. I believe, Anthony, is he joining us from upstairs in the booth?
Yeah.
Am I on the lookout for Dave here?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk to Dave Johnson. He's upstairs in the broadcast booth. I'm downstairs in outside section 106, 107. Come say hi if you are headed to the arena. Dave, next here on the Team 980. We are live at Capital One Arena. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980, and very loudly blaring into sections 106 and 107. Here downstairs. Upstairs, there's a man. What's up? What's up? There's a man named Dave Johnson. You're very familiar with his voice because he is the play-by-play man for the Zardos, and he joins us each and every Wizards game day. From downstairs to upstairs, Dave, hello.
Hey, we'd be the Zardos if it was Spanish night, perhaps, but tonight is, as you know, French Heritage Night, as Victor Wembanyama's in town, and, of course, Bilal Coulibaly. Unfortunately, Alex Sarr will not play tonight. We're hopeful he can play on Wednesday. But, yes, vive la différence or c'est la vie or something French tonight. But, listen, Victor Wembanyama, special talent, is in town. And the Wizards, look at that. It was a fun time in San Antonio when I know they lost by 9 points to the Spurs, but it was a competitive game. We look for more of the same tonight, but it's a different Spurs team, also with De'Aaron Fox now part of the equation.
Yeah, for sure. Dave, how much of the broadcast will you be doing in French tonight?
You just heard it right there.
Okay.
That's it. I'm not going to pretend. It's a beautiful language, and believe me, the French people do not need Dave Johnson to attempt to speak French. And again, for all our listeners out there, the young listeners out there, if I had to do it all over again, I would have focused on really studying a language, whereas we were dumb knuckleheads in high school. We would say things like, "Oh, how are we ever going to use this?" Well, basically, if you learn a second language, you can write your own ticket. So that's my advice to young people out there. Learn a second language.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan Poole and I had some fun on Media Day talking about our attempts at learning French. I think his were going better than mine. Although I did feel proud of myself this morning, Dave. I wasn't quite aware. Not enough coffee had hit my bloodstream yet as I was in my fitness coaching mode this morning. But I had a client who came in. She was a new client, and she was French. And I did say bienvenue, which is welcome, which is about the extent of my French. And she said merci back, thank you, and that was my French for the day. So I actually got, unknowingly, Dave, my day was off to a correct
French
start.
Yes.
And now I would have taken a croissant and an orange juice for breakfast. That is how a proper French day should start. But I settled for my minimal amount of the language. As for on the court tonight, without Sarr, Dave, and we know that Wemby had the 50 burger last time. How do the Wizards try to slow him down? What's the plan of attack, and what did Brian Keefe have to say when you talked to him about 45 minutes ago?
Well, again, it's going to be a collective effort and all those cliches, but they're not cliches. It's true when you're talking about a player of that caliber of Victor Wembanyama, and I say of that caliber as he's only in his second year, but he's got a special skill set of athleticism that really can. Can we keep him out of the paint? Now, he made 8 3-pointers the last time these two teams played, part of his 50 points. So it would have been nice to have Alex Sarr, certainly, because he is also a very athletic big man who could chase Victor Wembanyama out on the wing. The Wizards really don't have that situation where Sean Holmes will get another start tonight, as it's just going to be a challenge. But what it does emphasize is that when you talk about stopping Victor Wembanyama, it starts with how you defend on the perimeter at the point of attack. And so if the Wizards are somewhat successful in that area, then you could be somewhat successful in limiting Victor Wembanyama. If the Spurs get going and they can find Wembanyama in his sweet spots, we know what he can do.
Yeah, for sure. You talk about the defense on the perimeter. Not only do you have to deal with De'Aaron Fox tonight, you also have to deal with Chris Paul, one of the most savvy veterans. When you look at a guy like Bub, he's obviously got quickness, he's got length, he's got all of these things on Chris Paul. But Chris Paul's Chris Paul. He's got more know-how than maybe anyone else in the entire league, not named LeBron James. What kind of challenge do you see, and how much fun is that matchup of the just unmitigated youth of Bub Carrington versus the unmitigated experience of Chris Paul tonight?
Well, think about this sentence. Bub Carrington almost led the Wizards to a come-from-behind win against the Atlanta Hawks on Saturday. Now, why I think that's a significant sentence. A, it's true, as he had a career high in points. But rookies in the NBA are not supposed to be the catalyst to lead a team. They're not supposed to be, hey, get on my back, I will get us back in the game. That's not typically a rookie role. I bring that up because it is the opportunity the Wizards have. So the pain the Wizards are going through with the record, the experience that these young players are getting where, hey, you don't look around for anyone else. Okay, Jordan Poole's having a tough night shooting. Somebody's got to step up, and there's somebody on the Wizards, chances are they're under 21 years of age. So that's you, Bub Carrington. Show us. And by the way, you're going against the Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young, and a Hawks team that's very much playoff motivated. So this is not a situation where you're not going to get resistance as you try to take over a game. So I bring that up because tonight will be yet another challenge. But have we talked about it all season long about how these young players, it doesn't faze them, whatever the challenge is, because they're not coming off the bench to do it. They're in the scouting report. They're in the assignment. You go do it. You have to do it. You're starting. You're leading. And that's a valuable experience that the Wizards obviously hope will lead to long-term sustainable success. And it's starting in this laboratory of a season, if you will, tonight. So, look, De'Aaron Fox, Chris Paul. We saw De'Aaron Fox when we were in Sacramento recently. Bub Carrington, all these guys, Bilal Coulibaly. As I talk about it all the time, they can't wait for the next night in the NBA. They want to win. They're not concerned about the record. They're concerned about, can we get better the next game and show it? Did Bub Carrington show it on Saturday night? Did I expect in his rookie year to be saying, hey, Bub Carrington just took over? We say that about veteran players. They just take over a game. Well, Saturday we had Bub Carrington just take over a game, and that's what's been fun about this season because you don't know which young player is just going to say, you know what, I don't care who the opposition is. I don't care what their situation is. I don't care what their resume is. I'm just going to play and take over.
And you also get fun facts like this, Dave. Chris Paul debuted in 2005, which would have been, the NBA season starts late October.
Right.
Bub Carrington was born in July of 2005.
All right.
So that's something we're all just going to have to think about, something we're all just going to have to take in. I would want to ask Bub, hey, Bub, do you try to trash talk Chris Paul with, I was 5 months old when you made your NBA debut?
Well, knowing Bub Carrington, he might just do that.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I talked about that was Draymond Green's comment. I've said this over and over again, but as Keshawn George was barking back at him, and Draymond Green's like, is that what you're going to do?
Right.
But Draymond was impressed because they're not afraid of who they're playing against, but they can't be because they're not thrown out there in a situation, some rookies where you protect them, you coddle them, you have the luxury to do that because you're a more established team. These guys, you're in the starting lineup or you're first off the bench. You got to do it. And this is and whatever, as you're listing, whatever job you do in life, do we grow more when we were forced to either sink or swim, for lack of a better way, or put in a situation where, oh my God, what am I going to do? Well, you don't have time to think about, oh my God, what am I going to do? You just do it. And then when you come out of it, you realize, wait a minute, I'm better than I thought I was.
Yeah, and I think the challenge has been for BK and for Michael and Will surrounding these guys to make sure that they can truly succeed. They're not just going to go out there and get their butt kicked,
right.
But they have done a good job of that for sure, and finding the roles here for some of these guys that the experience is truly meaningful. Real quick, Dave, on the way out here, Keshawn George, in or out tonight? You mentioned that Sarr is out with a left ankle. George has been battling a right ankle sprain. Is he back tonight?
He's back. Keshawn George will back tonight. Again, we're hoping Sarr, because, again, he's scheduled to be part of the All-Star Weekend, the Rising Stars. So we're hopeful he's going to be playing Wednesday. I thought he'd have an outside chance tonight. He's not going to play tonight. But look for Wednesday, which will be our final game before the said All-Star break.
And Dave, we will talk to you before that one. Au revoir. Have a good broadcast. I can't remember how to say good luck in French. At some point, my Duolingo taught me. Then I went on my vacation to France this summer, and then I switched my Duolingo back to Spanish. So buena suerte on my end of things.
That's well, I'll just say merci. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, that's good. That was good. Dave Johnson, everybody. He'll be taking over here on the Team 980 coming up in 30 minutes when pregame begins. Dave, thank you for your time, sir, and we will see you on Wednesday. When we get back, we'll get back to some Super Bowl thoughts and kind of wrap up our thoughts on that for the day. Look ahead to tonight down on the court between the Wizards and the Spurs. And, of course, we will wrap up the show with real things, real people said into real microphones. This is the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're broadcasting live from Capital One Arena.
Women's sports.
And first, before all that, the latest on the world of women's sports presented by Wawa. Chicken how you want it at Wawa with customizable crispy or roasted chicken sandwiches. All right, it's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. I'm live at Capital One Arena, outside section 106, 107. Anthony is, of course, back in our DC control room. Anthony, I'm not going to lie. I kind of wish that just this segment, every time I do the show here, I could just kind of just running commentary on the people that are walking by. Because you see all kinds of stuff. I saw a dude. Now all these people walking by are like, hi, hello, hey, see, I got people waving. Now these people are like, oh, God, what's he about to say? There was a dude that walked by in like a Knicks Carmelo jersey a couple minutes ago. And I just want to be like, bro, what game do you think you're at? Like, I get it. We got a bunch of Wemby fans, and I'm fine with that. Like, you want to come support your person from out of town. For all I know, we got a lot of French internationals that are here, not just playing for the Wizards, but that are in town. You want to go support Wemby? That's fine. I get it. But to the dude who walked by 5 minutes ago, fortunately for him, I was in a commercial break in the Knicks Carmelo Anthony jersey. Are you lost? That's what I want to know.
I mean, Craig, to his defense,
what are you about to say?
I think so he wants to go to a sporting event, but he also wants to be known he's a Knicks fan.
Why?
So I think
why would you want to be known as a Knicks fan?
Yesterday I thought about putting on my Jaden Daniels jersey amongst a whole bunch of Chiefs and Eagles fans. Just saying, just because I'm a Commanders fan, left hand up. I didn't do it though. I didn't do it.
Respect, but yesterday was not your day. We lost that possibility in the NFC title game. That's why, Anthony. That's why they play the games.
I know. I thought about it, but the fact that it was a thought in my mind and I didn't execute it doesn't take away from the fact that I thought about doing what that Knicks fan did.
This is the difference between, I'm going to call them smart people and not smart people. Not smart people can have, sometimes you have the same thoughts. It's what do you do with them? Do you act upon it? Do you say the thing that came to you? You don't have to act upon or say out loud every thought that comes to your mind. The ability to have a filter in your words and actions actually is what makes you smart or not. You, sir, were smart. You didn't do the silly thing. That guy wearing the Carmelo jersey walking around here somewhere, he looks like he's lost.
He might be. He might be then.
One of my least favorite things is when people wear sports gear, specifically jerseys, to an event where neither of those two teams are playing. Congratulations, you have a jersey. I also have the internet and can buy one.
Yeah.
You agree? See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That guy walking past agrees. Who could disagree with me now? He in his Wizards jersey. And I get it. That dude was actually wearing a Commander's hat. Okay, it's not a thing for here. It's not an NBA hat. It's not like he's wearing a Nets hat. Okay, you support your DC sports team. We're also in DC. That makes sense. That's all I'm saying. Is that it's okay to, just because you're going to a basketball game, not wear this fella. You have an excellent jersey on. Why do you have a Lakers beanie on? He's got an old school Bullets jersey on. Why are you wearing a Lakers beanie? Unless that's the only beanie that you own and it's 30 degrees outside and you're like, it's my ears. Also, how are you hardcore enough of a Wizards fan that you have an old Bullets jersey and you also have a Lakers beanie? This confuses me. Sir, you're wearing a Grizzlies jersey. They're not playing today.
Craig is heckling fans.
The Grizzlies are better. Everyone's better than the Wizards. I'm aware of this. They're working on it. See,
no, this
Bullets
is actually hilarious.
That's a Baltimore Bullets jersey. That's fantastic. Or shirt. That's great. I love that people are talking. There you have some people that are pointing to their shirts. There are some people that are talking back to me. I have headphones on. I can't hear any of you guys. The guy with the Lakers beanie was yelling at me halfway down the hall. I'm like, I can't hear a word you're saying.
No,
you're just wearing the wrong
man.
hat. This is what I don't.
Would you describe what you're doing right now? Heckling fans.
Kind of. This works for me.
Craig.
This guy, hold on. This guy just went by in his Sabres hat, trying not to make eye contact. I see you, young man. I see you. That sport nor that team is not here tonight. They're never going to let me back here. This is my last show from Capital One Arena because I'm now just heckling fans.
Hey, you're making it a good one then.
But there's a lot of people smiling and laughing, so that's nice. She appreciates it. I see you over there.
Yeah, we need some more Wizards fans and jerseys in there then.
I agree.
A little bit more.
I agree. And look, they're working on it.
Okay.
The youngest team in the league. They're
fair.
doing stuff.
Yeah.
That's fine. And by the way, there's some great Wizards jerseys. Like, I actually like a lot of the current Wizards jersey. I told you this was a thing that we did earlier in the season, right? The light blue that they're rocking, the City Edition, which they're not wearing tonight, I don't believe. But the light blue, I would make the permanent jersey.
I still wish they had the floral ones from the cherry blossom.
Those were sick.
I wish we still had those.
See, this is the thing. The NBA is changing jerseys every single year now, and it's
And I
like
don't
a
like
ploy.
it.
It's a ploy to sell jerseys. Nothing can become iconic if you continually change it.
Yeah.
Because there's like I've seen, even in doing this silly segment, that I wish I had a camera that I was getting some of the people that I'm talking about captured on video here against their will. I'm sure I could make them sign a waiver. The point is that like I've seen 5 different jerseys, the Wizards jerseys that I love that lasted one season and they got worn 6 times.
Yeah.
We don't need that. Hi. Hi, hello. Yes, now I do feel like a zoo animal. Thanks for asking. All right, when we get back here on the Hoffman Show, one more. The Celtics aren't playing tonight. I know you won the championship. You got to rep your team. They're not playing. You don't. You actually don't. You don't. We all have the internet. We could all buy that jersey if we want to. That team's not playing. Why are you wearing it? This is a segment I could do every time here. I don't get it. Just wear a jersey that of a team that's playing. That's welcome to a sporting event where there are 2 teams that are on the floor and neither of them are the Celtics. See all these Spurs fans walking by. I'm not going to be mean to you. You're repping your team. They're actually playing tonight. Good luck. I don't know how much you'll need it the way things have been going lately for the Wizards, but again, Anthony, they're working on it. Anthony, did something major just happen? Is there breaking news?
There's not breaking news, but the fact, so Luka debuts tonight.
Yes.
And the Lakers have laid out a Luka Doncic shirt on every seat in, I don't know what the name of their arena is.
It's Crypto.com. I don't know if Crypto.com is still a thing, but Crypto.com is still the name of the arena.
Yeah. Wow, I'm just in awe. I would love a free shirt, you know?
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would.
That's
okay. Well, that was not talking about the Super Bowl, which is what we intended to do that segment. We'll wrap up our show next on the Hoffman Show. Great pull to close things out, Anthony. A little trombone shorty to take us into our final segment. It's the Hoffman Show, New Orleans flavored. He performed during America the Beautiful last night. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. 15 minutes from now, we send things upstairs to Dave Johnson for Wizards pregame here on the Team 980. We're live again at Capital One Arena. We're outside section 106, 107 until 6:45. Of course, tip-off tonight at 7 o'clock, Spurs and Wizards. Anthony, tomorrow on the show, ESPN has put out their way too early 2025 NFL Power Rankings. We must talk about them because the Commanders are safely, firmly inside the top 10.
At first, I thought you were about to say top 5.
They're close.
Okay.
So I'm pretty pumped about that. We will talk about that tomorrow on the show. Obviously, we're now full look-ahead mode. We will do our part to move on from the Eagles winning a championship as quickly as possible. One thing that we haven't talked about on the show today about the Super Bowl, that Fox telecast was god-awful. God-awful in every way conceivable. The thing that will unite everybody, no matter what silly jersey they may or may not be wearing walking around here at Capital One Arena or listening on the radio or watching on YouTube, is that if you just start bashing Tom Brady, people are like, yep, that's good with me. And we can certainly do that because Brady was just tremendously bad. And he was bad in a way that is very specific to him because of not just who he is as Tom Brady, the former quarterback, but Tom Brady, the part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, who is not allowed to meet with the members of the participating teams in the game. And thus, all he has as a point of reference. Now, if I was going to pick any player in NFL history to have this as a point of reference, Tom Brady might be the guy because he did ultimately win, 7 Super Bowls? And he played in 10 of them. So, he's got more points of personal reference to that game and to this sport than basically anybody. But if all you have is, I would do this here, or we used to do this here, or Coach Belichick did this, that's not really that insightful because y'all aren't playing. And so where other announcers can be like, Vic Fangio is trying to do this, or Andy Reid might try to do this against Vic Fangio's defense, all Tom Brady can do is go, Vic Fangio does X, I would have done Y. Because he hasn't actually met with Andy Reid because he's not allowed to based off the rules that are in place for him because he's the owner of another team. It's a very, very silly thing that the NFL has done to itself and that Fox specifically has done to itself. And the fact that they pay him twice as much as any other announcer makes in the entire sport is crazy town. And he was awful because, one, he's not a good broadcaster. He actually is good on some of the radio hits and stuff he does. There was this viral clip that went around last week of him on the herd with Colin where he's talking about all kinds of amazing stuff, and he's really passionate, and he's really depth and detailed. But live game analysis is a totally different beast. He's not good at it, period, and he does not have the resources available to him to be good at it, which is why Fox should probably just move him to the studio and pay out until he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. But you cannot go into another Super Bowl with that dude as your lead announcer. That was a bit genuinely embarrassing just on the Brady front. And that's before I get to all the other stuff I hated about their telecasts.
Yeah, and I just think, this is year one of him actually, trying to perfect this new craft of his. So I just think they shouldn't have rushed him into,
you don't pay
calling a freaking Super Bowl game.
You don't pay someone $37.5 million to not be the starter.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's that too.
Not saying that's the
right.
But
that's on Fox.
But that's why they should have paid him $37.5 million because he can't actually do the job functionally or skill wise. Yeah. Also, congrats, Fox. You have a very fancy green screen. Why are you putting Burkhardt and Tom Brady in an empty restaurant somewhere on Bourbon Street virtually? Yeah. What a silly turn the camera around and show the field of the Super Bowl behind you.
Yeah.
Not some fake restaurant on fake Bourbon Street.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
That was also empty, by the way. They didn't even fill it with fake people.
Yeah, it was nobody. It was dark. It was basically a late night on Bourbon Street, No,
late night there's people. It's 11 o'clock in the morning on Bourbon Street.
Oh, yeah, I guess
you haven't been to Bourbon
but it's
Street,
dark,
have you?
though.
You haven't been to Bourbon Street, have you?
No, I have.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's nobody there at 11 a.m. There's plenty of people there at 4 a.m. It's kind of the whole bit of it all. What else did I? Oh, some of the sponsored, like the force of the sponsored elements. You had that West Virginia Country Roads Take Me Home ad. Everyone's like, oh, it's unifying. It's one of the best ads. That ad stunk. That ad was terrible. And then they compounded it by playing the song in the stadium and panning and be like, oh, look at all these people united, as 78% of the stadium wasn't paying attention or singing the song at all. Amazing.
Yeah.
There was the Lady Gaga thing going into the fourth quarter. That was weird, just like super forced. They just sold out in so many. Like, I understand. The Super Bowl is a chance. You pay a ton of money for it. You get a chance to make a ton of money off of it. But they just so overdid it. Like, CBS doesn't do it that way. NBC doesn't do it that way. And it was genuinely the worst Super Bowl. The new score bug is awful.
Horrible. Oh, my God.
All they have to do is extend the color over another inch, and it'll be fine. It's very clean, but you can't actually read it very well.
Yeah, it gave Fortnite vibes. I'm not going to lie.
I haven't played enough Fortnite to have an opinion on
I mean,
that.
I don't really play Fortnite that much, but I recognize a little bit of it.
Genuinely the worst Super Bowl telecast that I have seen in my life. Yeah, that guy that just walked by agrees. So, I mean, again, it's official. And his buddy's wearing a Wes Unseld jersey. That's a jersey.
There we go.
Where's the guy wearing the Jason Tatum jersey that said, I have to rep my team? No, you don't. You could wear a Wes Unseld jersey. That's all I'm saying. Anthony, do we have time for real things, real people said, and real microphones?
Yeah, we got a couple things.
All right, let's do it.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right. So there's a couple sound bites that we'll play to end out the show. Real things, real people said into real microphones, the name of the segment. Anthony, can we start with Saquon's daughter? Because of all the things about the Eagles that are hateable, and they're basically endless, Saquon's a very likable figure, and his daughter's extraordinarily cute. And in case you went to bed early, this moment happened last night on the postgame shows.
Yeah, come on, man.
Oh, my goodness.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Saquon. Hi, how are you? Guess what? Your daddy won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Are you so excited?
Yeah.
What do you want to say to him?
Congratulations, my favorite.
Yes, indeed.
My goodness.
That is any dad is just like, if I can grow up and win whatever my Super Bowl is. For Saquon, it happens to be the actual Super Bowl. And my daughter's response is, congratulations, you're my favorite. Your life is complete at that very point. The $13 million a year deal he signed doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, that would have melted my heart. And actually, there's another story. He actually had a story about his daughter, about when he first got traded to the Eagles. Take a listen.
But my daughter, funny story with her, when I told her that we're going to be going to Philly, she kind of was just like, does that mean we're going to win now? And I just started smiling at her. I was like, hopefully we can win some more games.
Your daddy won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Are you so excited?
Yeah.
What do you want to say to him?
Congratulations, my favorite.
Fox Sports, the courtesy on the audio there.
I even want to cry, bro.
I know. Got all emotional. Speaking of getting emotional, real quick, actually just wrap up with story yesterday. Dude, did you watch Hubie Brown's last broadcast yesterday?
I didn't get to watch a full game, but I jumped in, jumped out kind of thing.
If you hear the sound of my voice right now, here in Capital One Arena or on the radio, on YouTube, on the app, wherever, and you did not catch live or go back and watch the end of the broadcast, Hubie Brown, his final game, he's 91 years old. This man gave 53 years to professional basketball between the NBA and the ABA. Started coaching when he was 24, I believe, at the college ranks, and then eventually makes his way into pro ball. The way that Mike Breen and Hubie handled the end of that, I was legitimately just stopped what I was doing and was crying on my couch watching the end of that, knowing how much basketball we all learned from Hubie, how much better he made the game. Like, all we all want to do in anything that we love is leave that thing better than we left, or better than we found it. And the extent to which Hubie Brown accomplished that is not possible to overstate. And the job that ESPN did yesterday in his final telecast was sensational. That's our show for today. We'll see you tomorrow on the Team 980.